Everyone, my name is Sue Juder, and I am the Marketing Specialist here at Business Machine Technologies. I want to welcome all of you to the final episode in the first session of our Remote Works webinar series. Today, we're going to be reviewing the Office 365 platform. Before we begin, I just want to provide a quick overview on our Remote Works webinar series. Every Tuesday at 12:30, we're going to host a short webinar on a different topic. We will highlight capabilities within that topic that will assist with your work from home efforts. The different sessions will be tied to a series or theme. The first three include our Microsoft Teams event, our WebEx session, and today's Office 365 webinar, and they're tied to communication and collaboration. The second three sessions will begin May 5th and will be related to security. And then finally, we review strategy and structure. Registration information for next Tuesday's event, which will start our security sessions, will be sent out later today. And again, if you sign up for the first session, you'll automatically be enrolled for those in the remainder of the series. And again, all these sessions are free, so they're all designed to assist and help with your work from home efforts. So we do encourage you to register and attend as many as possible. Quickly, before I turn the deck over to my colleague, I just wanted to remind everyone today's session is being recorded, and you all will be receiving a copy of the deck sometime tomorrow. So with that, I'm going to turn the presentation over to my colleague Stu, and we will begin today's presentation on Office 365.
All right, thank you, Sue. Office 365 has two tiers of plans. There are business plans and enterprise plans. Most of our clients have a mailbox through the Exchange Online hosting plan. That costs $4 per mailbox per month. For just $1 more per month, you can get OneDrive, SharePoint, and Teams cloud-based services in the Microsoft 365 Business Basic Plan. Another $8.50 a month puts you in the Microsoft 365 Business Standard Plan. This adds the full suite of Office 365 apps to install locally on up to 5 devices. The enterprise plans add device and app management, as well as identity and access management. And we highly recommend the Office 365 E3 plan, as it includes email encryption and legal hold. And if you're in a regulated industry or you just really want the best in security, E5 is your best choice, as it adds threat protection, advanced compliance features, and also the ability for attendees to call into Teams meetings with audio. But today we're going to focus on OneDrive, SharePoint, and an app we use regularly at BMT, but Microsoft doesn't promote a lot, the Planner app. First up, OneDrive. It's integrated into Windows 10, and it's also available as an app in the Apple Store and the Google Play Store. Right now, many of you are probably storing your work files on a map network drive. For years, we set up our clients with an iDrive for their individual files and an O drive for their shared organizational data. Before that, in NetWare, everyone had an F drive mapped to the company data. Today, we're going to talk about how OneDrive and SharePoint replace and enhance these network drives. First is accessibility. You can store and access your files from any device via a web browser, a mobile app, or a PC and Mac with robust sync options. This includes your personal files shared with you in Office 365 from other Microsoft Teams or in SharePoint. You don't need a VPN client. You just need a connection to the internet, your username and password. For security, files are encrypted while both uploading to OneDrive and downloading them. When stored in the cloud, they are also encrypted on the disk. If you lose your device or are subject to a cyber attack, OneDrive has your back, allowing you to recover your files and minimize any loss of work. You can also think of OneDrive as a portal to all your files. Through it, you can view recent files, files that have been shared with you, or recommended files based on your working relationship with others. Edits that you make offline are automatically uploaded the next time that you connect. You can co-author documents using Office Online mobile apps and the desktop Office apps. It's simple to share files inside and outside of your organization. And finally, you can easily share in Outlook with modern attachments, as well as directly from Word, Excel, or PowerPoint. You can share links to files rather than static copies. By sharing a link, you can get around the size limit of your email servers. You can even securely share files with people who don't have a Microsoft account by just using email verification to prove their identity. So let's take a closer look at the OneDrive portal. Here's a screenshot of the OneDrive portal, mine to be more precise. I've signed into OneDrive through a web browser, and this is the view you get. Right away, I can see my files. This is my personal workspace in Office 365. By clicking Recent, I can see the recent files that I've worked on across all Microsoft apps. By clicking Shared, it will show me the files that people have shared with me and those that I've shared. Clicking Discover shows me what public files my team members have been working on. And Recycle Bin does exactly what you think it does. Show me any files I've recently deleted from OneDrive or SharePoint sites. And I can also browse, you see all the teams that I'm members of, and it'll let me browse the shared libraries for all these teams directly from OneDrive. Here's a screenshot of some of my files in OneDrive, and I want to show how easy it is to share content. I can click the three dots next to the file, go down to Share, and the Send Link pop-up shows up. Here I can set the permissions that people have. They can edit it, or they can get a read-only copy if that's all I want to give them. I can enter a name and email address. I can add a short message. I also have the option to copy a link if I want to paste that into a Teams chat. Or I can click on the Outlook button. If I have Outlook installed on this device, it's going to open Outlook, compose email, and I'll have the link in there. I can then compose, a lengthier introduction to this document if I want. Finally, you can just click Send, and that link will go to your intended recipient, and they'll have access to the file. Another feature that's you're not going to get on the Map network drive you're using is autosave. Well, you may be saying to yourself, I've had autosave turned on to my documents for every 15 minutes since Office 97, right? The difference with OneDrive autosave is the version history. If I've made a mistake, I can open any of the previous versions to get content I need, or just save as the current version. And lastly, you don't need to use an app or sign into the website to access your files with Windows 10 PCs. You get native File Explorer integration. As you can see here, right within File Explorer, I can access my work OneDrive as well as my personal OneDrive. So next, we're going to take a look at how SharePoint extends all these great capabilities for documents shared by many people. While there is an app available in the Google Play Store, the preferred access to SharePoint files is Teams now. Microsoft's done a great job of integrating SharePoint sites into Teams, and that is the preferred client for Android and Apple handhelds. SharePoint includes the same native accessibility features that you find in OneDrive, but really for groups of people working on team documents. This is going to replace your O drive or F drive. At BMT, we started using SharePoint 10 years ago, way before it was even in the cloud. We set up an HR site for our staff wherever they happened to be working. All they needed was a web browser, and they could get access to critical HR documentation. We also built a knowledge base and hosted it in SharePoint so that as our field techs, as they went out to client sites, they can access this knowledge base anywhere they had access to a web browser. We also use SharePoint to host some planning calendars, like a vacation planning calendar. But with the Teams integration and the cloud storage, we're finding that we're using it much more for document storage. And here's some benefits that we'll review on the next few slides. Co-authoring, you can have multiple people edit at the same time. Versioning, document protection, insights into who's working on what files, and an alert me feature. Here's an example of the Teams integration. Behind every team in the Teams app, a back-end SharePoint site is created and presented within Teams. Here I've focused on Teams. I've gone to my IT Health Check team, and across the top here you can see files. Now these files I can access that are hosted in SharePoint right within Teams and work on them. And if I don't need any other advanced capabilities, I can just continue working with Teams. However, there's also a link to open in SharePoint, and that's going to open the SharePoint site in a web browser. Well, I'll have access to the more advanced features, which we're going to go over. Co-authoring. If someone else is viewing or working in the presentation, Word doc, or Excel spreadsheet, their thumbnail picture appears in the top right corner of the ribbon. The app alerts you when people enter or leave your document, in this case, a presentation. You'll see the name of anyone viewing or editing the presentation in the Share pane. But there's also an indicator on the thumbnail of the slide or in the actual slide that shows where someone is working on the presentation. And if you click on that or hover over it, you'll see the exact name of that person. If you have multiple people working in a document, each person's changes are color-coded so you can quickly see at a glance who is doing what. All right, so let's say you have documents that you don't want people in at the same time. In SharePoint, you can set up the library to require files to be checked out. When they're checked out, they can't be worked on by other people. When you are done, you check the file back in. At BMT, we use this or the IT Health Checks reports that we create for our clients, which I'll discuss more on the next slide. Versioning settings. So again, SharePoint's going to automatically keep version history for you, just like OneDrive. But if you need more specific versioning settings, it's available to you. And it's one of my favorite features, right? If you've ever worked on a document with a colleague, emailing copies back and forth, you quickly wind up with 20 copies of one file. You've got to agree on a versioning setting. You're renaming the file each time to follow that convention. Who has the latest version? Where is it stored? It's just a mess. In SharePoint, you have greater control over this process, and you can have people create notes about the changes they've made as they make them. As I mentioned, at BMT, we use this for our IT Health Check reports. We require checkouts so that when a file is checked back in, the tech can briefly describe the changes they've made to the document. We have the choice of checking back in as a major or minor version. The techs usually use a minor version because they're just updating a section, but I'll use the major version after I've reviewed the whole report and it's ready to be reviewed with a client. So years later, we can go back and we can see the exact version history there, all the major versions that have been in use. So in the interest of time, I'm going to skip over these next few slides, but we'll include them in the deck so that you can review these features. But do want to quickly hit on the Alert Me feature. You can turn on alerts for documents. For example, if you have a policy and procedure document and you want to know when another manager goes in there and makes a change, you can choose who you want the alerts to get sent to, how to send them, by email or text message, and you got options on when to send the alert and on what criteria do those alerts get sent. So the last app that we're going to look at today is the Planner, and this one we use quite extensively at BMT. I'm not sure why Microsoft doesn't promote it more. It is available in the Google Play Store for Android devices. From a Mac device, you're probably going to just use the Safari browser. And frankly, at BMT, we use a browser almost always to access the planner. At BMT, we use the planner to help run our sales and marketing meetings, service and management meetings. We typically put the board up on a conference room screen, but now working remotely, it is just as easy to share the screen like I'm doing here today. In Planner, you can organize tasks into buckets. You can categorize tasks based on their status or who they're assigned to. The My Task view provides a comprehensive list of all your tasks and their status across your plans. When working together on a plan, team members will always know who is working on what. Planner lets you work together on the same tasks, attach documents directly to them, and even have conversation around the task without switching between apps. Planner is going to work across all your devices, and with Planner, everyone is always on the same page. You can continue conversation and updates while on the go or at your desk. So let's take a closer look. Again, one of the most valuable aspects of Planner is it helps teams organize their work visually. Each plan has its own board, and within each board, each work item or task is represented by a card that can have due dates, attachments, categories, and conversations associated with it. These items are organized into buckets on the board, and here this sample plan has a bucket of PR activities, social media, and events. Team members receive an email notification whenever they are assigned a new card or an update is made to a card they're assigned to. Let's take a closer look at the card as represented on the planner board. You can see at a glance, Garrett's assigned to this card. It has a due date of September 2nd. There's a spreadsheet that's attached to the card, and there's a nice thumbnail view of the contents of that spreadsheet. Here is the top and bottom half of the planner card. And you can, again, from right within the planner card, you can choose which bucket it's in. From the planner board, you can drag and drop those cards around. You can set the progress, a priority, a start date, a due date, put the initial notes on why this card was opened. You can create a checklist so that staff know what needs to happen. You can add attachments. And as you see, it's got SharePoint integration here so that you get all the benefits of SharePoint that we spoke about. You can also attach a link to a web page if there's content on a web page that you want to review in your meeting. And then finally, the conversation area where you can update this card and then click send. That's going to add it to a history of comments that are saved with the card. And that's great because in a meeting, you may have a lengthy conversation about a topic and reach a conclusion, but we're not ready to act on that just yet. So you can have those notes kept in the card, and when you return to this card 3 or 4 weeks down the line, you've got those notes saved. At BMT, we organize our items into buckets like website, trade show, webinars, and then we use the labels to show priority. As you see here, we've got active, ongoing, sprint, on hold. If we don't have time for a full meeting one day, we can filter the planner by sprint and active items and then just concentrate on those only. So no matter how you set it up, Planner provides you the views to keep your work on track. The Hub view lets you track your overall progress across all plans, while the My Tasks view lets you filter down to see just what you need to do across every plan. In addition, the Charts view includes interactive charts for visualizing your team's progress against deadlines. You can click the red segment here on the histogram to quickly see which aspects of a plan are behind schedule, and then use the board to rebalance work across the team. With Planner, everyone is always on the same page. A single glance of the charts view is all it takes to know where things stand. So that brings us to the end, and And to summarize, Office 365 applications give you the ability to access your files without a VPN while still keeping your information secure and adding a number of new features and benefits like we reviewed, for example, co-authoring and collaboration.
All right, thanks, Stu. I brought this up briefly at the beginning. I just want to remind everyone again, we are excited. We start our security series next week, and we hope you can join us. We're going to begin on Tuesday with securing remote devices, and we'll follow with cloud security and the Perch security platform. And again, I put the registration link on the deck. And once you sign up for next Tuesday's event, you'll automatically be enrolled for those in the remainder of the series.
Yeah, I just wanted to quickly mention, everyone rushed to get their staff working remotely. We certainly helped our clients with that effort. And in doing so, you may have undone years of effort in securing your systems. So while I know security is not the sexiest topic, but the good news is the technology has never been better prepared to, close these gaps, but it does require you to look at them. And we hope you join us for the rest of this series on security so that you make sure your staff and your business keep secure. I mean, the last thing you need now in this time is more uncertainty and something like ransomware hitting you. So investments here are always going to pay off for years to come. So, Sue, do we have any questions?
Yes, so we do have a couple questions in the queue.
All right, actually, before we get to those, I just want to briefly mention that BMT, we're a Microsoft Cloud Solutions provider. We've got several competencies that are basically benchmarks, the amount of licensing that we've sold, the projects that we've been implemented in. We've got to prove that to Microsoft to get these competencies. And we're here to help everyone with their Office 365 implementations. Your businesses would have benefited before these, using these apps before the pandemic, and they can certainly benefit now. So how about that first question, Sue?
All right, so first question we have is, how do the versioning settings differ in SharePoint versus OneDrive?
Right, so versioning, it's automatic in both OneDrive and SharePoint. You're going to be able to go to past versions no matter where the file's stored. I guess the big difference is it's more formal in SharePoint. You have options to make it more formal anyway in the check-in and check-out that we reviewed. That's not available in OneDrive. So that would be the major difference, that you can do formal versioning in SharePoint and have people check back in as either a minor or a major version.
Okay, great, thanks. The next question we have is, what is a legal hold?
Right. So legal hold suspends any retention policy or automatic deletion. And retention policy here is kind of a misnomer. A retention policy can be set so that an email, once it's, say, 5 years old, can be deleted. It's kind of the opposite of retaining it, but that is how long it's going to be retained. So the legal hold suspends that so that no mailbox content can be removed from the mailbox. In other words, users can permanently delete items in exchange, but it's going to be held indefinitely for future discovery. And this is typically will come up, in lawsuits for e-discovery, and hence the name legal hold.
All right, great. So we have one more question. In the planner, if a team member is not assigned to a card, do they receive those updates?
Not by default, no, they're not going to get those updates. However, you can follow an entire board. One of the settings that you have is to be notified of any changes to all the cards on the board. So that is an option. But by default, You're only going to get, and this is to keep, I guess, noise down in your inbox, you're only going to get an email when a card that you've been assigned to has changed.
All right, great. Thanks, Stu. That is all the questions I have in the queue. Again, feel free to use your chat button in the bottom center of your screen if you have a question. Stu, do you have any other questions?
No, I don't see any other questions in the chat.
All right. Well, with that, we're going to conclude today's presentation. Thank you again for joining us on this beautiful afternoon. You will receive a copy of actually this deck along with two in the remainder of the series tomorrow morning, and that will also include a registration link to the next series, which begins next Tuesday. So we hope you're able to join us next week. Thank you again, and that is it.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
Have a great day.